want the red puppy or do you want the best puppy? Now, how can one at, I'm guessing the young age of 6 to 8 weeks, how can one tell what the best puppy is in your experience?
Yeah. No, that's a good question. And that's what I forgot earlier I was going to mention. And that's something I've learned too. We talk about color's not important. A lot of people, that's what I kind of was brought up in, reading and hearing from people, which I agree, color isn't important. But when you're a breeder, I do believe it's a genetic indication of stuff. By that I mean, and again, maybe I'm totally off because I'm not no geneticist, but I've noticed patterns. So where I'm going with this is certain markings on dogs: white on its head, a white leg, white toes, white chest. So I will have a litter of puppies, and if I'm line bred to a certain dog, let's just use my dog Gus, right? He had a son, identical to him, was red. Now, you're like, oh, well, he was different color. Well, no, his patterns were exactly the same. He had a white chest on him. He had the white on his toes just like him. He was structurally exactly identical, temperament, everything. He was like a carbon copy of the dog, but red. But if you know anything about Gus's pedigree, he is heavily inbred and line bred on an old dog, Intrepid Rooster, Cogburn, which was a red dog, So that's why it came out red. But I've noticed pattern, and when I select, or in a litter, sometimes you'll get that one color, and not always, but if you know your bloodline, I can say, oh my God, that's the grandmother of the litter, or that's the grandfather markings. And then a lot of times I found out that it will look like that. But yeah, back to what you said. Do you want the best one in the litter? It's mainly, if you know your bloodline enough, you can get a pretty good indication. Sometimes you'll get the quiet one in the back. You just know they're going to be a calmer dog. Sometimes you got the one that's just bouncing off the walls from like 5 weeks on, And so when you're picking a pup up at 7, 8 weeks, 9, 10 weeks old, sometimes 11, you can really see it. You kind of got a good indication. Now, again, you have to know your bloodline, because sometimes I've had some of those drivey or litters look like they have a drivey litter, but they fizzle out later. Like I know they're going to calm down, but I have some of my blood that I know is maybe a little bit more high strung. If I see one of those bouncing off the wall in a litter box, and somebody wants to do, say, sports with it, or weight pull, or actually maybe just a good ratting dog, that would be a good one for that too. And don't have any kids maybe, or it's not bad that they have kids, but you can really push them further. So in that aspect of it, if you come to me and saying, I want the best one for for maybe workability, and then there's one that's a little bit more shyer in the back, again, it might turn out to be the best one in the litter. But if I know my last, I know the parents of the litter, and the parents were the one that was a little bit more bold and outgoing in the back of the whelping box from day, from week 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and this dog's doing the same thing, this puppy, then I'm going to feel a lot safer handing you that one and saying, I got a good feeling about it's the best one in the litter, or it's what you're after, Mm-hmm. So that's my thinking on that. I think he was just, because we knew him pretty good. I think he was just making his point, because it ended up getting, actually it was a red dog. It's a long story. He actually passed away before I got anything from the litter. There was actually a red one that we were supposed to get, but he was going to sell. He laughed about it afterwards, because he looked at, you got to think how old were we? Maybe 17 years old then, and we were like, looked at each other, 18 maybe, and he kind of chuckled and stuff, and we said, yeah, I guess we want the best one, and he said, now I think it's going to be a red one, and laughed or whatever, laughed it off, but
I gotcha.
But yeah.
So how many solidified strains of the Stafford exist?
So there were a lot back in the day, and I guess, lines, they had like a M line, R line, L line, there was N line, there was a bunch. Sadly, there's only 2 left. There's the R line and the M line left. And that makes me angry towards the kennel clubs and stuff. Like, they talk big about how they're all for the breed, but how the heck did they let those lines die out? But that's a whole nother issue I have. They should have kept records of the stud books and saved some of those bloodlines, but whatever.
What is the R line and the L line? Explain.
So the M line comes from Brindle Mick. So so basically early on they had foundation stud dogs, and so think of it like people's names. You get, Austin, my last name's Austin, so my offspring carry my name. Well, the same thing goes with the dogs. So they had these foundation lines, foundation studs, and so M line, Brindle Mick, went on, and the R line, my mind slipped the dog that represented that. But anyways, so that dog passed on its offspring. So the males and females got the R line with it. So if you bred an R female to an M male, then it suddenly changes to M line, and so on and so forth. So over the years, and I blame mostly the show line, which people argue, oh, well, they're bettering the breed. Well, are they for looks? Like, it was just the fad, what they were selecting at the time. So the M line, if you look at the stud books, the main stud dogs that have been bred the most are M line. And then you have a second, it's the R line. And so that's the only blood that's left, if that makes sense. Okay. And now there's different strands people like to use, like for the working side of things. The Irish strands, there's the Dublin Red, there's the Psycho line, there's the there's the old Flynn line, there's trying to think of I like to think there's the Orday strand, in the United States. There's the there's just different lines of and strands of dogs within it now that I've kind of broken up between myself to differentiate between them.
Okay. So when it comes,
they all go back to the M and R line today. And the other lines are mixed in. They're just long gone. There's no male descendants from those dogs today.
I gotcha. So, when it comes to selecting for hunting, for example, what are you looking for in the litter that you're looking at? And then when and how does, I guess I'll use a game term here, when and how does the schooling process begin?
I take my time with them. I'm not in no hurry. That's the biggest problem I have, some people getting dogs. And again, I don't breed just for, working for people. I do it because I want someone to get a proper Staffordshire Bull Terrier. Does that make sense? I want them to get a tough dog. So, I'm not just telling people, if you want a working staff, get it from me. They're Staffordshire Bull Terriers, period. These are how they always were, So they're just, they're tough, and they're loyal, and they're, passionate, and they're, gritty. And that's what a Staffordshire Bull Terrier is, tenacity and all that stuff. And so, so I don't want people after this to think, oh, well, he's not breeding Staffordshire, but I am, that's just the stuff I use to ensure that they're, there maybe the way I select isn't the best like they did back in the day, but you can't do that. The badgers and stuff. I don't have any badgers. So I try to still show that my dogs, have grit and stuff. So a lot of people, like I said, will get it and they'll try it early on something, 6 months, whatever. And I've seen all different types. Me personally, I don't touch the dog until I know it's ready, and they're different. And again, different bloodlines or different parents. Like, you can kind of know when a dog is ready, but a good rule of thumb is, 14, 16 months. I don't mess with them until, maybe a year and a half, at least over a year. But now, saying that, that's like maybe hog work and stuff. And I'm the strong mindset of either they have it or they don't. You can't make a dog, turn just any dog into a good, a tough, gritty dog. You know what I'm saying? That's either something they have or they don't. Now, it might take them a minute to get it, and if you can start them early, maybe on if they can get a rat or something, maybe, or a groundhog or something like that. Introduce them to it, maybe let them chase a squirrel or something, to kind of build up that drive. But you have to be careful. I mean, some of my dogs, if I put them in a kennel, they'll chew out of it to get to something they see, and so you really got to think, is it worth getting them to chase squirrels? Because now every time a squirrel runs in your backyard, it's going through the glass door, or the screen door trying to get to it, because that's what it wants to do. But no, so I'll kind of wait. Now, typically, I'll let them decide when, and it's all different, and it depends on the animal. The raccoons are tough, man. They're no joke, and I think people, for a dog to handle a raccoon, it's tough. But I've had some people get dogs from me 8 months old. They're telling me they're working raccoons, and they're showing me, back-to-back raccoons and stuff. And I would not recommend it. I was totally surprised the dog didn't ruin the dog then, because again, raccoon has hands and like teeth. If you ever seen them on a dog, they're very vicious, man. And a lot of these terrier people can say what they want, but a lot of the times they're dispatching the raccoons themselves. The dogs are just catching it. But if you can get a dog to finish a raccoon on its own, that's a big deal. And a lot of times I think it's a misconception, and I'll probably get a lot of heat from this too, but patterdales and stuff like that, and they're not, they're catching it. Yeah, they're catching the animal and stuff, and then they're getting hit in the head with a spade, or they're taking care of dispatching the animal. The dog's not doing it, and not saying that they can't. Some can, I'm sure, but in general, a staff, 30 pounds to take on a 30, I have some friends that keep them for, protecting chickens and stuff. They'll kill a 30-plus pound raccoon on their own, same size, and it's a war, and when you can't shoot guns in city limits or whatever, that's a good tool to have as a dog that can dispatch something like that. But again, I can't believe the dog didn't ruin it from starting it that early. I would have done maybe at least a year, give it to him, but I still probably would have waited longer than that. But again, if you know your dog and but maybe start them more on rats. My big thing is, I don't think people talk enough about it. Make sure your animals are vaccinated properly before you go doing some of this stuff. There's a lot of they can get distemper. It's a big one. I worked in an animal hospital. I've seen a lot of dogs die from stuff like that. So just make sure, these people, if they want to try it, I think it's kind of gotten popular now, people going ratting and stuff, and not that rats carry that specific thing, but raccoons do, and skunks. I had a dog kill a skunk once, man. I think the skunk had rabies. That's a whole nother story I won't get into, but yeah, you just got to be careful with the animals. But, just kind of fill the dog out. I like to see them, I'm in no big hurry. And the way I see it is, by 16 months, if they're not doing what I need them to do, then they just aren't cut out for it. And, and I might find them a good pet home or something. And then, sometimes I'll have older dogs. I'll keep 3 or 4 from a litter. Like I have some now, to give you an idea. I kept a couple off of this. 2 brothers, and I'm trying to make my decision on which one to keep and which one to move on. And to be perfect, and I hadn't messed with them any, hadn't done no hunt. I think both of them are going to be perfect for it. But like you said earlier, it comes down, and I'm fortunate to do this as a breeder. My wife would argue with you, because she's like, you don't need to keep 2 more. What are you doing? But that's in itself. But I'm to the point where they're both equal, so now I just pick what color, what flavor, or whatever I like best out of the 2. Does that make sense? And again, I hadn't worked them or nothing, but you just kind of know. You got a good feeling, or it's all chance. You don't know until you actually try them. But they're coming on, I think, 7 or 8 months now, and so I might let one go, and they'll probably be a dang good dog, but and it's only, and some people think, oh, why are you getting rid of this older dog? What's wrong with it? Well, man, it's already trained, it's already it already is kennel trained, it's past the all that stuff, potty training side, leash training, and there's nothing to do with the dog. It's just the fact that I got 2 that I like, and I just like one. I've grown to like one a little bit more than the other,
I gotcha. So,
but yeah, so I wouldn't start them. It just depends. I wouldn't go crazy. Maybe a year and a half.
I gotcha. So, in your opinion, I noticed, through all the dogs I've had, there's a certain point where they stop growing height-wise, and then a certain point where they stop growing in girth.
Yeah.
When do you think those two time periods are for a Stafford?
And I would break it between male and a female. Mm-hmm. Females tend to finish out a little bit faster. I like, mainly because of the muscling. And the Staffordshire Bull Terrier is known for its head size and stuff. And I think a male won't finish until 3. That's just my experience. And again, it's different bloodlines. I notice I'm looking at a lot of the show lines and stuff out there now. Their dogs are like finished looking early, like 8-9 months old. They look like an adult, but I will warn these people. That's what's so funny too. They will show them and champ them out before they're a year old. And what's funny is I've seen some of these dogs when they're 3, and they look like fat toads. Like they're just and like muscled. Like they keep growing and growing and growing. And they look great at 12, 11 months old, and they look maybe more balanced. People would argue, oh, this dog. But if you see it when it's after they've won its championship title, it looks really overdone, but again, it varies in the bloodline. I'm working with a few different, I'm trying to keep in my yard a few different strands, or I don't know if you want to say bloodline, because it's my bloodline I'm working with, but if I want to add a little bit of this or add a little bit of that, I keep them separated so I can do maybe an outcross within my own yard and my own, my brothers and my family of my family of dogs. So some of those will actually have, maybe get their legs in early, and they'll be, 8 months. They'll kind of got their legs in, and then their head and their finish, they won't finish muscling up until maybe 2-ish or so. The females, I like to say they're about done by about a year and a half. They seem to be pretty, and then they get that muscle maturity that they'll kind of develop closer maybe to like 2.5 or 3. They really get that muscle maturity, and then 5 to 6, 7, they really start, probably the best years of them. And then after 7 is kind of, sometimes it's downhill. It just depends. But usually mine will I was hog hunting my male. He was 9 last time I took him hog hunting. He did great. I had to actually look up his pedigree again to see his age, and decided maybe that's kind of his limit now, because I don't. Once they get over 10, I notice sometimes it's like a snap of a finger, and they'll suddenly age in front of you. Like he doesn't have a gray hair on his head or nothing now. He's 10, but I actually have a few females in heat now. The older they get, sometimes the worse they get looking for a girlfriend. And it just really is taking it out of him these last couple weeks with some of the girls in heat, just driving him mad, man, because he hadn't been able to get to them. And I'm like, dude, it's aging you. These bitches are aging you, But, and he's still fine and stuff. But, yeah, you just don't know. So that's kind of what I've noticed on them, at least, and even bites, again, to me, it's a good dog. Doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. But I found a lot of times, amazingly enough, dogs will even lose their good bite when they're older, and it's just their muscling kind of going, I think, in their jaws. Not all, I'm not saying, but I have noticed a dog that might have a good bite, and then at 11 or so, just kind of, it'll go to a level bite or something, or maybe even a slight underbite or something like that. And of course, they lose teeth too along the way, just from working and doing stupid stuff, maybe chewing stuff, but. Yeah, that's what I've noticed.
I gotcha. So, I know we touched on this before, but I just wanted to reiterate based on what you just said for the listeners. Do your dogs fit within the standard size? How big would you say your dogs end up?
Yeah, so and I might get ridiculed for this on some of the hardcore working side of it. I do keep mine within standard. I'm one of those, I want to be able to take one of my dogs to a show and still fit the standard and kick all of them. And, and if you really look at maybe the standard, I go by it. And by saying that, it's not the show trends and stuff. They say it needs to have a clear stop on its nose. It needs to have this and that. Mine have all that, but some people would argue that, they want a more defined or a more, just to tailor what they want. But no, yeah, they do fit the standard. Now, saying that, I do get some that are bigger or smaller. I hadn't got any really small ones lately, but I've had some 23 pounds. I've had people tell me some have gotten 50 pounds. I wonder too now if some of it's just obesity, but again, I don't have the dog in front of me, so I don't know. So they do deviate from it. If I get any, now again, if I got one that's just shining out, if it makes it that far, but so for example, these two pups that I got now that I'm keeping, one of them's looking like he might just be a little out of standard. Now, for a working man, someone that doesn't care, or someone maybe wants just a good pet, it doesn't matter to them, then he'd be perfect for him. But for me and somebody, I'm looking for a dog that I use in my program that I can line breed, inbreed to down the road if they turn out that good. I want to stay in the standard. And that's kind of another reason why I'm kind of leaning towards the brother, because this one's just looking like he might just be out of standard just a little too tall, a little too, he might probably end up being a little too heavy once he muscles up. And again, that's just me being selective and picky and the little tiny detail stuff, if he's still going to be a really, really, really good dog, and I'm still back and forth. If he proves himself good enough, but if I keep him that long, then I don't have a problem with using a dog, but to keep them within standard, that size, I think it's like 14 inches, from females into males and stuff to like 16 inches. I try to keep it within that. I try to keep it with like 24 to, I think it's like 40 pounds or whatever. I try to keep it within that as far as the females and the males.
Okay. So, is the bloodline that you have still around over in Europe?
Yes. Some, if you know who to look. Now, a lot of mine are from the United States and stuff, but there's, they were imported long, long ago. If you know where to look, the problem is a lot of it is the people that. They just they're just, dogmen, and they kind of do it for themselves. So the actual being able to find it, you probably can't. And I don't have any of my bloodline per se over there. So, but saying that, I knew a lot of people, years ago that had this stuff and nobody knew about in the United States. So, maybe there's some over there. I just don't know about it. It's a lot of it's been crossed and washed out so quick. Even the stuff in the U.S. Ken bred a lot. He put a lot of his dogs out there, but the life cycle of a dog is so quick. Whereas, as far as, let's think of a female, after 7-8 years, then you're gone, you're done. Bloodlines die out real quick, and the whole grass is greener on the other side. People see a show dog, they see something pretty and shiny, they import new blood, and they wash out, and then they'll breed to something else, and then before you know it, there's just nothing left of it.
I gotcha. So, how would you compare the Stafford to, say, the Patterdale, the Pit Bull Terrier, or the Yag Terrier, however you say it?
I think it's closer to maybe the American Pit Bull Terrier, people argue that, the Staffordshire Bull Terrier is just like the Irish Pit Bull, an English Pit Bull that they imported over years ago to kind of help with the American Pit Bull Terrier line. But, it's more or less like that without, an American Pit Bull Terrier is the top of the food chain, is the way I see it. Like the baddest dogs, alive. A Staffordshire Bull Terrier, you get good ones, some, as good as, but the percentage is not there, there's just so much more availability with the American Pit Bull Terrier. And the reason why the Irish Staffordshire Bull Terrier kind of died out was because a lot of those men traded in their staffs for the American Pit Bull Terrier because it was so much, better odds and just better chances of getting him, that caliber that they were looking for. So the Staffordshire Bull Terrier is more of a novelty breed when it comes to that side of it. But I had a friend that has Patterdales and stuff. He kept both. The biggest thing with the other terriers, and it's just my experience, so I don't want anybody to get mad at me, but the Patterdales are just a little more, they're yappy. I don't like a yappy dog. They bark like crazy, on anything, and they're real, I don't know. And again, I don't want nobody to get me mad. This is just what I've kind of saw and noticed and stuff. They seem to lack a little bit of intelligence, when they work something. It's more of a hold on for dear life, no quit, in them, which is, they seem to have that mental toughness, fortitude, just to hang on and go for the ride, not let go. That's what you want in a bulldog. But I wonder the intelligence side of it, and I'm not talking about the preservation side of it, because a bulldog shouldn't have that. As far as they shouldn't stop. They should always think they're winning, which they seem to be doing that. But sometimes you might need to regroup and stuff. And I don't know. But I say that I don't know. I hadn't worked with them and stuff, and maybe when they're in the hole. But I've heard stories where they won't let go and they'll die in a hole and stuff too. So. Mainly the yappiness, and then where a staff is a little bit more, and I don't know enough about the Yag Terrier, but I'm guessing it's more like a Patterdale, where they can figure problems out a little bit better. Like, they'll come in from the other side, or they'll, change it up. Not all of them, but again, that's on working what I've noticed in the bloodlines and stuff, and like my dogs in particular, they're just a little bit more problem solving and not just going in guns a-blazing type stuff.
Okay. So outside of what you got going on, is there any other, I mean, we kind of touched on this before, but I just wanted to get more perspective on it. How many times, if any, and is there any other bloodlines that you have used over the years?
Yeah, so let's touch on other stuff, like what crossed good with some of my foundation stuff, because it's all relevant. I could say I got Irish blood, but it's I've had to add, you have to do outcrosses. You have to, nothing's the same, and then it turns into your own. I've had good luck with the South African bloodline. Now, when you're talking about, and that's kind of confusing, but for the staff people, they'll know it. I kind of break it up into the Old English bloodlines, which are like Black Tusker stuff, and people that are in the staff should know this, knows pedigrees. And then you have the new UK stuff, which looks, I think I've heard people say they've added Pug and French Bulldog in and everything else. I definitely stay away from, which is like the Casanova blood and stuff like that. And then you have, and this is just me breaking it down, this is no, scientific thing about it, it's just what I've noticed in pedigrees. Then you have the South African line, which is M line, so it's all based on that usually, but he had a ringmaster, ringleader, their dogs were always heavily tightly bred, and they had some tenacity about them, and good health and stuff, and same with some of the older UK stuff, like the Black Tusker stuff, the Realms Black Ace. I heard he was a really tough dog and stuff, and then you have some Australian lines and stuff in New Zealand, and so there was another dog Steve Stone actually owned named Ruger. I have him in my bloodline as well. Now, he was completely show stock. He was nothing, but I heard he was a really tough game little staff, and a good dog. From Steve himself. And so I had a son off of him. And anyways, so you have the New Zealand stuff, which is long gone. It's like loggerhead and stuff like that, bloodlines. But what crossed the best for me was the South African lines. I had good luck with, and I think it's because it was a really tightly bred dogs. And then some of the they had good health about them. They had good wind and stuff with them that I've noticed, and good drive and stuff like that. Now some of the older UK stuff that I use, like from Realms Black Ace, they had a real grit to them. They weren't as intelligent, and this is just my experience. I don't want people getting pissed at me, but they had they weren't as smart. I thought, was kind of lacking a little bit. And then the New Zealand and stuff. Now, the male I used, he was kind of a mix. He was half Australian and New Zealand blood, which was, we'll say Australian, because he went back to loggerhead and stuff, which also went back to some of the rappery stuff, which in the old days was a show line of dogs that people were actually using for work, and they were doing really, really well with. Now, I don't think he was specifically breeding for it, but they were still tough staffs, and some of the loggerhead stuff goes back to that. And on the UK side was the Realms Black Ace, was what Ruger went to, and so again, that was some good stuff that crossed well and gave you some intelligence and stuff too. And so that's kind of what I use to kind of add into my lines and stuff. I try to stay away from the newer UK stuff because I just don't know. I've just seen bad examples of them. The closed nares, just turned up muzzles, baby tiny teeth. Like some of the bloodlines have really small teeth and stuff. You have to be. I'm picky about that. I like nice teeth in my dogs and stuff. I don't know where these tiny teeth come from. And then the bug eyes and stuff, I don't like that either. But you just got to be careful. I don't know. I do have some pickiness about me. I want my dog to look nice. I like the small, nice, pump handle tails, and I like the thin tails. A lot of them are just hairy, thick. They have all kind of crazy stuff that you can go along with. But that's just me being picky over the years and selecting. If I got two pups that I like both of them, but one has a better top line or a better this or that, I'll kind of select them on that side of it. But yeah, that's kind of what I've noticed. That's kind of the main things out there that you can pick. You can probably still find some of the South African lines out there to do a cross with. Now I don't know how much of it. You just have to look and see, but those are some of the lines I use to add into the Irish stuff. And there used to be the old American lines, like the True Grip and stuff like that. Those were really good dogs back in the day. I don't know enough about the new stuff. I think they all traded it in for what was, if you really trace the pedigrees back, I don't know how much of it's original. There was Bulldog kennels that was around for a long time, and a lot of breeders, they will just kind of upgrade their line as they go, so they don't ever keep their own bloodline. They just kind of trade it in for whatever's winning or something in the show ring, which is fine, whatever.
So, what percentage of your production is extremely dog aggressive?
Extremely, or just dog aggressive? Like, I tell everybody they're dog aggressive, and the main thing is just to be responsible. I always take everyone and as I expect everyone to be dog aggressive until, that's just being responsible. Now, sometimes they do come out more aggressive than others. They're hard to deal with and stuff, and it's mainly over a jealousy thing, and it's mainly over maybe more of a same-sex thing. So if you can kind of, I tell everybody this, they're actually better to have one of these dogs. In a perfect world, I wouldn't have this many. I never planned on breeding. The only reason why I did was the breeder I got my dogs from at the time, had suddenly passed away. And then when I went to look for another dog at the time, people were just being jerks to me, and nobody had any reason for breeding other than making puppies. And so that really, so me and my brother started, we had a couple dogs between us, and then we acquired, the last stud dog from Intrepid, and started kind of breeding to what we felt was the best of the line, and now it's to where I'm at now, and now I'm scared to let it go because I don't want it to die out or disappear.
So, just for the listeners,
yeah,
they're really That question was more for the listeners.
Yeah, I would treat them like a pit bull. And then again, Staffordshire Bull Terrier people will shoot me up for this, sit me out. But treat it like it's American Pit Bull Terrier. And you know, the people that get my dogs, they tend to. The best ones have pit bull experience, and they understand the breed and just being responsible. You know. Yeah, I mean, and again, and the saying that, like, that's a bad, you have to be careful, because some people take that, oh, they're just, no, mine are good. Some of them get along with each other, and people are like, well, have you let them play together? Oh, so they won't play together? Well, the thing is, I'm not going to let two males run together, period, because they're Staffordshire Bull Terriers. Something could happen, something's going to happen, and I'm not going to let it, I'm not going to, you know, so it's kind of a curse having this many, because you have to pick and choose who they run with, and I still, even if they get along, you know, a male and a female, I'm not going to leave them alone 24/7. I had one, we were working, you know, a groundhog not too long ago, and I knew better, because, and this is a male and a female. Once they finished it, you know, it turned into, you know, a fight over who got it. You know, they wanted it after that, and so you just got to be careful. You just got to be responsible with them. And so I just tell everybody, just, you know, treat it like it's a loaded gun. It could go off at any time. The best thing to do is to not play with it. You know, in those situations.
Right. Okay. Well, this is kind of just for me personally, but tell me a story. Take your favorite hunting dog you've owned and tell me the step-by-step, you know, briefly, of how you raised that dog up. What did you do, and how did you know that he was the real deal? You know, like, give me kind of a rundown. Well, for me and the listeners, I suppose.
Yeah, so for me, it's, you know, I see a lot of people that say, I got, you know, and again, I guess my standards are different, but a lot of times when someone says something's legendary, or somebody says, use words like, you know, this is a proven stud or a proven dog, I don't see a 2-year-old dog can't be a proven dog. A 2-year-old dog can't be a proven stud dog. To me, there's so many factors that go into that. That is never have I seen it take a step back in any challenge, you know, that's presented with you know, whatever, raccoons or hogs or whatever, and then same with and then it needs to produce quality, you know, dogs, and then 3, it has to have longevity. It can't live till 8. Now accidents happen, and I've had some, you know, snakes and stuff like that, you know, problems come up, but in general they need to check all these boxes, and to be a really good, like, proven dog to me at the end. I know you're talking about just for hunting, but I'm just, this is what I kind of base mine on, the years and years and years of proving itself. And so, you know, like, for example, Gus, I'll use him. So it started, you know, as a pup, using just, I got him from a friend of mine in Dynamite Kennels. And I could use Junior too, but I'll use Gus for the sake. And he just a real calm, chill, laid-back puppy. And I already liked that from the start, you know, not too crazy and amped up. But, you know, I actually had another dog at the same time I had gotten, and I was raising them together, and I was wanting to see who made the cut and who didn't. And both really good, you know. I don't want to cut the other dog down any, but long story short, he just outshined him, you know, in every way, and just from natural instincts, from, you know, and again, you know, I don't care about the whole sport thing, but just from any kind of sport you wanted to put him in, from, you know, tug to, you know, whatever, he did it. Just his drive, you know, animal drive as far as, you know, squirrels. He would, I remember one time, I can't remember how old he was, maybe a year. The squirrels would come down this tree, and I had a cable line it would run up and down on. You know, I would clip one out so they could run and get some exercise. And I had found him up in the tree he had caught a squirrel from the tree. He had ran up the tree and around the side of it and snatched the squirrel out of it, which is crazy to see. But just from that on, to taking him hog hunting, for the first time, just getting right in there, and just he looks more like a slow dog, I guess you could say it. And again, it sounds bad, maybe I'm not describing it properly, but when it's game time, he turns it up. He has great movement, just tough, durable dog, and just time and time again, just will not back up, and then on a flip of a switch can go, back inside, just chill, lay by your feet, just so gentle and sweet with my kids and stuff, just till up until 9-10 years old, he's still hunting, catching hogs and groundhogs. I mean, go in a hole, pull them out, just tough, no quit in them, and just good keeper, easy going with all my other dogs. Sired, I've inbred on him, I've line bred to him, I've outcrossed with him, and just a consistent dog, and good health, no problems, no issues, just solid.
Okay. Now, this is going to be a tough one. So, God forbid, your whole yard disappears. You got to start over. You want to get a new dog. You got to start over. What would be your plan of action? Who would you go to? What would you be looking for, and why?
Yeah, that would definitely that would suck. It depends. I would probably first try to go to anybody that I had sold dogs to in the past, But if I couldn't do that, I don't know. I'd probably just give up. But I would. I don't know. I'd probably reach out to some people I made friends with along the way, and just see and try. See who's out there still breeding, and if I could get anything off of some of my older stuff, or I have a few friends and stuff that have gotten some of my dogs. Maybe reach out to them. I got some buddies in California and stuff. Maybe try to reach out and get some stuff and start over that way. Mm-hmm. They got kind of the same mindset as me when it comes to the staffs. And try to build back up from there. But really, I don't know. I'd probably be such punch in the stomach, I don't know what I would do. I do have, let's say, it really happened. I which I never do, but I recently collected up I had some frozen semen off of a couple of my dogs, and I would probably try to locate me a really nice female first, and if I was able to acquire that, then I would probably, try to use some of that stuff and go from there. Is really what my plan of action would be.
I gotcha. So, with that in mind, for the listeners, if you had to rattle off the top camps outside of yourself for somebody to go get a quality Stafford, who would they be?
That's a good one, man. It depends on the location. Some of them probably, I don't know if they'd want me to tell them their names, to be honest with you. I don't know if they'd sell just to anybody, but, there's some, Pure Grit in California, he got some really nice dogs. I'd probably, go to him. I'm trying to think. Who else? A lot of them, man, have stopped breeding over the years. Pumpkins, Intrepid's gone. Dynamite's not really breeding anything now. I'm trying to think. Who else? There's just really not much around now, man. And if you go, there's some really nice ones in the UK. But I don't know. Again, they kind of breed more for themselves. They don't sell pups, and a lot of people aren't like that. They won't. They're just breeding to breed quality dogs.
Mm-hmm. So, what's your ideal candidate for somebody purchasing a dog from you?
Ideally for me, I prefer ones that have had experience before, either with the old type, or maybe with even pit bull experience when they've had pit bulls in the past and they know the history on the Staffordshire Bull Terrier, or they've had staffs, maybe 20, 30 years ago. And I get a lot of that where they'll come back and they'll be like, I'm looking and oh my goodness, they've changed and they don't look like my dogs that used to look like and yours do. And it just tells you just in 20 years how much they can change. Ideally, that's it. Somebody that's not just looking for color or just looking for a certain thing. They just want an all-around good Staffordshire Bull Terrier. That's kind of what seems to be the best fit. Maybe somebody that wants a good, family pet as well, for the family, but doesn't want like a huge dog or anything, and that don't have a lot of dogs already. Typically, if you have a whole bunch of other dogs, they just don't get along or whatever. Now they can get, if you raise them with cats and stuff, they do fine, Chihuahuas and stuff and whatever else. But in general, people might call me and say they have 8 dogs and 4 males and they want another male, or 4 females and they want another female staff. Might not be the best situation,
Mm-hmm. So aside from, every dog has its own character, obviously. But aside from that, straight factory settings, what can people expect when they purchase a dog from you, regardless of character?
Just in general, just a healthy Staffordshire Bull Terrier, like the way they were intended, just loyal to the family and people and stuff like that, and just confident puppy or dog, turn into. That's important to me. Just being able to get one that's just a good all-around dog. Sometimes they can be a little much for people, like I said, that doesn't have experience with it, but in general, you're just going to get an intelligent dog, and just be confident with training and stuff. And sometimes you have some that will test you, and not in a negative way, but what I mean is listening. They're intelligent, and they're going to try to get away with some stuff. Maybe I didn't hear you, so I'm not going to do what you say. So just be, assertive with them, and yeah, you'll do great with them.
Gotcha. So we briefly talked about this before we started recording, and I know, like myself, you're a bit of the reclusive type. You keep to yourself mostly, your family and whatnot. What made you come on and tell your story? What was your goal?
Honestly, just to kind of get the word out there, that you can still breed proper staffs without, adding pit bull into it. I've heard all kind of crazy stuff people do, and with American Bully, and now the go-to thing is just mixing, pug in if you want to have smaller muzzle, or Bulldog, or whatever it is that people think are out there, or they just think it's dead and gone. And before I'm, I don't know. I think it's important to know there's still proper staffs out there, and for people to be aware of it, and make sure, make sure the history side of it you get out. I've been kind of in the works for years now, writing a book, and I would like to kind of complete it, but I never have time, and I'm always doing a little bit more and feel like I'm learning more every day, but there's a lot of the American working side history that I think needs to be told, and nobody knows about, and a lot of these men have died, passed on, or just not breeding it, and they just don't talk about it, but it's an important part of the history of the bloodline.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
So what are the very basics when you're screening customers? Because, maybe this video can help cut down on the bullshitters that I'm sure you get contacted by all the time. What are some of the very basic expectations
Well, and this sounds terrible, but I'll just say it because, I think a lot of people think it's just like I give dogs away. Like, it's not, I mean, a lot of people get offended when I give them a price. And the truth is they need to understand, feeding dog, I mean, upkeep, everything is a lot. And the amount of time and years and keeping my standards and stuff, it's not easy. If somebody else can do it, you can take them, and if you can keep it, maintaining it, then I'll gladly stop breeding. And when I want a good Stafford, I would go to you and get one for nothing, But at the end of the day, health testing, there's a lot of stuff that's still needed to upkeep for these dogs. So it's not free by no means. So I just want people to understand that sometimes working and cheap are together, and it shouldn't be, and then two, or expendable. Like I'm passionate about my dogs. I love my dogs. I don't have to sell anybody a dog. I always do a litter where if I keep the whole litter, I could care less. And I'm not trying to sound cocky or nothing, but I'm just trying to tell you, I've had some people that are just in it for wrong reasons and stuff, and I just tell them, don't waste my time, because I don't care how much money you have. I'm not motivated by that either. The problem with money, if you don't put a certain price on things, let's just take emergency vet for example. I don't know where other people are at, but around here you're lucky if just going to the emergency vet is an automatic grand, probably $1,500. And if you have, and that's still cheap. Some of the places around here, it's like $2,000 or more. And so if you can't at least, if you can't buy a pup, then what are you going to do if for whatever reason it gets into it with, I don't know, something, or it gets hurt or jumps, like these dogs, jump off something and break its leg, or so many other things, right? Snake bite. What are you going to do? So you're telling me already that, I'm not going to take care of it if something happens, and these dogs are important to me. So, and then know too that I don't, I pick the pup for you. And I know that sounds, again, now, it might end up being one or two pups that I might say, hey, between these two, they seem like they're going to be more drivey, or they're going to be calmer, or whatever, and one's this color and one that's color. Go ahead and decide. But in general, I'm not going to, I get a lot of people, and I hate to say it, they're the worst. People that call me up, they'll tell me they have a 10-page list of criteria. I want it this height. I want it this size. I want it to be able to do this, and this, and I want its ears to be that, and I want its tail to be this, and I want it to be this color with this spot on its head. And I'm like, and if you don't do it, then, and then they complain about the price or something, and it's like, dude, do you not, like, first of all, I tell them, you might need to buy an adult dog that has everything, because, like you did mention earlier, how can you really tell as a puppy? Honest to God, you can't. We take educated guesses, we take percentages, we kind of observe and hope we get it right. But at the end of the day, if you're so, don't be like that, because I can promise you that the parents and their parents were good dogs, and they did, this stuff, but as far as what every individual is going to turn out like, it's kind of hard to do, and so, and I hate to sound like that, and I get it, but I'm not breeding to satisfy everybody. I'm breeding to for myself and what I'm trying to accomplish and stuff, and so just know, bear with me on that, and I've had in the past where somebody, and I think I said this before, so I won't go into too much detail, they'll tell me which one they want, and I say, okay, whatever, but I warned them that one was too much, dog, and they get, and then I get it sent back to me later and say, oh, it's tearing up my house, it's too much, and I warned them, and then again, it goes back to, they should have took the calmer dog, but they wanted the blue dog, or not the blue dog, but the whatever, spotted one. And then, so now I'm stuck with trying to find this one a home, or, train it to because they didn't do it properly, because it was too much from the start for them, so, and those are some of the reasons. And I much rather, when you come back to me and say, hey, this dog isn't the way it is, and then I said, at least I can say I did it, and it was my I don't mind getting the dog, back for those situations, but I hadn't had any comeback from from that since I've just started saying. And then too, I'll be honest with you and up front, if I don't get the one in the litter that you're looking for, then don't get mad at me. I'll just be honest with you and tell you, hey man, I don't have one that's going to be, I don't feel like I have one that's going to be that caliber for you, that's going to be able to do this or weight pull or whatever. They just don't have it in this litter. It's going to be more this other type, and so you can either wait or whatever, but I'm not going to sell you one. I don't want to give somebody false. I'm not a salesman. I'm not there's peddlers and stuff out there you got to be worried about. Just be careful. I tell everybody, like, for one, if you see anybody out there selling them for, the name is Staffy Bulls, whatever, Moonlight or whatever, be wary of it, because if anybody, when they call me up and they start saying, I've been in the breeds X amount of years, and they start calling them a Staffy Bull or Staffies, then I know they hadn't been in it that long. And then same with, if you're going to a breeder and they're breeding, Rottweilers and Staffs or, Cocker Spaniels. I feel a real breeder, now working dogs are different. I know people that's had game bred pit bulls and they bred staffs and stuff, it's a little different. But as far as somebody that's just trying to, breed several dogs, I think anybody actually breeding more than one dog, it's very hard to focus. It's hard enough for me to figure out my own bloodline. So if somebody's trying to juggle two different breeds, then I doubt very seriously they're taking a whole bunch of thought and selection in their program as a whole. So just kind of be wary of that. But yeah, no, just come to me. I'm pretty easygoing, tell me what you want and what you're looking for. Really the best ones are ones that just want a good companion, that want a dog and they know is tough. And if they go out hiking in the woods and stuff, they're not going to get hurt if something happens, or if they have a small farm or something, they do good, or just want a good inside pet or whatever. Those are kind of the people that seem to enjoy my dogs and stuff. And for the ones that want something for working and stuff, let me know as well. But again, it's sad. A lot of those working people, they want it for free, and then they want something that's expendable, where, if it's not hunting in 6 months, they're calling me up and telling me this dog's no good or this is that. And first of all, I will sell somebody like that, a dog. But I'm like, why the heck are you hunting them at 6 months? Let them be a puppy. Let them grow up,
Mm-hmm.
You're ruining them is what you're doing. And now you wonder why he's, a year and a half and he's not doing nothing, or 2 years or 3 years or whatever. You've ruined him. You beat up his confidence. Just a number of other things. But did that come across all right? But
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? I get people that will call me up and, they got so much thing, and then and if it's not good, and I'm like, dude, you want an adult dog, and I try to sell them an adult dog, and they don't want, oh no, or then they tell me I want a puppy, or, or whatever. It's ridiculous. It's like, so do you want a puppy or do you want a good dog? Or vice versa. They'll pick one and, then tell me later, I said, it's the calmer one. You sure you want that for this? Then when the dog doesn't turn out, for the agility or whatever it is, they're like, I've got a dog from Steadfast and it's no good. It won't jump and it won't this or that. And it's like, man, I told you that one wasn't for agility,
Right.
But they don't tell anybody that part. They just tell them, dogs aren't any good.
So where's the best place to find you?
The best place to find me, man, is, I have a website, www.steadfaststaffords.com, but, I am on Facebook and Instagram. Those are probably the easiest to reach out to me on the messengers of those, because I do check my email, though, on my website and stuff, and kind of keep an eye out. And I have a couple litters planned coming up, if anybody's interested or whatever. I kind of got like a list going. This day and age, it's not, I know I don't have litters often, but then I'll go in spells where I will at times. It just depends, but I do have a couple planned, so if anybody's interested, reach out to my website or my Facebook or Instagram. On Instagram, it's Steadfast Performance, and then Steadfast Staffords on Facebook.